Welcome to Disney Lorcana. This is my first video for Disney Lorcana, and I'm so excited to talk about the deck that I've been able to accumulate. And I say that because cards have been hard to come by here in the Northwest. I live in Vancouver, Washington, and finding cards is quite hard. We've driven all over Troutdale, Portland, Kelso, trying to find cards. We finally were able to find a few places that had some available. Shout out to Hidden Treasures Gaming in Troutdale for having boxes that we could buy, and to Blue Cat Games in Kelso for having the best run tournament I've ever seen. Thank you so much. So I went to the tournament, the constructed tournament in Kelso, and this deck won first place. And I don't know if that's because I'm an amazing player or because everyone else couldn't find product. Probably the second one, but you never know. So we've got, I want to talk about this deck. We've got the Duke of Weaseltown, my favorite guy to make fun of because he's not good, but he is a one cost you can throw on the field. Same with Sergeant Tibbs. They're a 2/2. And they're out there just to kill whatever they put out first. That's their only purpose, really. And just a card to put on the field, and you can ink them later, so no big deal. They're nothing special, but they're just one cost that fit. Flynn Rider, excellent card. This one, whenever he is challenged, the challenging player discards a card. So if you get him out turn 2, players don't want to discard cards early. That is very painful. So they usually ignore him unless they have another way to kill him, or send him back to hand, something like that. But send back to hand cards all cost 3 or higher. So he's going to sit on the field for 1 turn, and you're almost guaranteed to quest with him at least once. Get that 2 lore in. Jasper, super important card, which sounds silly, but his 4 willpower is enough to survive most attacks early game. So he sits out there for a turn as well, just like Flynn Rider. And when he quests, he chooses a character the opponent controls that they can't quest next turn. So if they're trying to rush you down with big questers like Maleficent or Lilo, this guy can hold them down for a turn or 2 before he bites the bucket and dies. Cheshire Cat, excellent. Another preventative card, just like Flynn Rider. Not as good. He's okay. I actually like Flynn better, but at 3 cost, he's okay. 3 willpower, so a little bit stronger than Flynn. But when he is banished in a challenged and banished, then he banishes the challenging character. So whoever kills him dies as well, just like Cusco. Same effect, except Cusco also has ward, so he can't be chosen by other things to kill him. So the only way to get rid of Cusco is to challenge him, pretty much. Or be prepared, or something that doesn't target. Hans, my favorite, probably my favorite card, which sounds funny because he's a no text, 4 cost, 3/3. But he is the only card in the entire set that quests for 3 and costs 4 or less. So he's the first character you can get on the field that quests for 3, and then your opponent gets scared because they're like, oh, he's really pushing hard. And yeah, at 3 willpower, he dies fairly easily at a 4 cost. But I've found that people ignore Hans because of other threats on the field, or they're trying to figure out what else to do. And you can get in a couple of quests with him before they finally decide to get rid of him. Tinkerbell is evasive, and that's really her purpose, but she's one of the few evasives that actually quest for 2 instead of 1. So that's helpful. And Tinkerbell, when she comes to the field, she gives evasives to another character. So if they have an evasive, you can challenge with another character now and take out one of their evasives with her. Pongo, same thing as Tinkerbell. He just has evasive, quest for 2, nothing special. He's Pongo. Down here, we get some really great cards. We got Mad Hatter for 5. He is probably one of my favorite cards because he quests for 3 again, and whenever he's challenged, you get to draw a card. This is the only card draw in this entire deck. So that is something I'll talk about at the end of the downsides of this deck, but this is the only card draw available, and it's up to your opponent to let you draw or not if they're going to challenge him. LeFou. LeFou is 2 cost, a little bit out of order because I ran out of space, so I put some singles up here. But LeFou is important in this deck for 2 purposes. He can come to the field and ready one of your opponent's bodyguards or something like that, so you can challenge someone else. Because it doesn't say character your opponent controls or character you control, it's either. And also, he could stand up someone on my team that I don't want to die. So I can quest with Mad Hatter and then stand him back up with LeFou. Be like, yep, he's going to survive next turn, unless they have some other way to kill him other than challenging. Maui, extremely important in this deck because I don't have a lot of high power attackers. He has Rush and Reckless, and he attacks for 6. So almost always, Maui's going to be a 2-for-1. He'll get 2 kills in for 1 of your opponents killing your guy. So Maui is almost always a 2-for-1. He is super good, and I wish I had another one of him. I only own 3. John Silver. I originally did not play this card, and I was like, he's not that good. I'm not loving it. Well, I put 2, I have 3 now, but at the tournament I had 2 of him in here, and I had 1 more Pongo. But anyway, I recently got a 3rd copy of John Silver, and he is actually much better than I thought. And the reason is, when he comes to the field and when he quests, he gives one character your opponent controls Reckless, which means they are forced to attack next turn. Now, a lot of people are downplaying the value of Reckless online. I've seen a lot of posts about it. Oh, you can sing a song, or you can use their ability to get out of it, and that's true. But there's not a lot of cards that have their own ability, and to play a song, you have to have it in your hand. So by the time he comes on the field at 6 cost, at turn 6, it's likely your opponent doesn't have very many cards in hand. It's the chance of them holding a song they're going to sing is unlikely. I haven't seen it very often, although maybe I haven't played against the decks that have a lot of songs in them. Maybe there's Sebastian and an Ariel build that just crushes me. It could happen. Mother Gothel. So she is another card I wish I had 3 of. Not 4, but if I had 3, I would play 3 of Mother Gothel, because while this character is exerted, opposing characters can't quest. So she is like Jasper, except it makes all of their characters unable to quest until she is removed from the field. Or sorry, unless she's ready. So when she's exerted is when her effect is active. So, and she quests for 2. All these guys, like almost everything quests for 2 that's of value in this deck. So 2 or 3. And that is kind of the purpose, is to push as much questing as possible. A lot of games I've actually never challenged and won, because I just quest until they can't overtake me anymore. Or I've got a couple evasive guys on, like these 2 that both quest for 2 and they can't stop them and just keep going. Oh, I'm at 14. All right, this is gonna be over soon. Stitch is another card that's kind of funny to me, because it seems like every time Stitch hits the field, I hear this groan from my opponent, because it's later game, he's 6 cost, he quests for 3, and he's nothing special. Once again, a no text, just like Hans, a no text card that 4/6. Okay, like that's decent. 6 willpower is pretty good. So removing him is kind of a pain, and they want to, because he quests for 3. It's like do I want to mess with this? Well, I kind of do. The same thing happened with John Silver. He quests for 2, but because he forces Reckless every turn that he quests, it just puts the hurt on. They don't like having to mess with that. All right, and then I'll also cover the characters up on top here. We've got Kuzco. I only have 1 copy of Kuzco because my son traded for my other 2 and stole them away from me. Just kidding. It was a good trade. But I did full 1 Kuzco after that, and he has Ward, which is the only card in this whole deck that has Ward, which means he can't be chosen by your opponent's abilities, except to challenge, of course. And he quests for 3, and then his no-touchy ability is why he's important. And it makes it so that when he is challenged and banished, you banish the challenging character. Same effect that Cheshire Cat has, except he also has Ward, so he can't be killed by other things like Cheshire Cat can. Gaston, he is in here for the same purpose as Maui, just a lower cost version. So he comes in, he has Reckless, so he can't quest. He has a 4 attack, 2 willpower, so he's gonna hit hard and die quickly. He pretty much is a 1 trade because he has such low willpower, but it's a very strong 2 cost. So you can get him out fairly early and kill pretty much anything that's a 3 or less, 3 cost or less. And then Peter Pan is in here because he is evasive, and sadly he only quests for 1 of the few that are this way. But he's in here because I needed another 3 cost card in general, and I didn't want to put another 4 or 5 in, because 5 is where all my power is, the super important cards here, and Dragonfire that I haven't talked about yet. And then also, there's just 10 4s, and I didn't need another Pongo to fill up that slot, so he's a 3 cost with evasive. Now, back over here, we've got those all characters, 52 characters in this deck. Then we've got our 1 action card of Dragonfire, which if you haven't heard of Dragonfire, I'm sorry, you should play this game because it's amazing. Dragonfire is banish a character. Any character, the only restriction is it can't have Ward, because then you couldn't choose them. So Dragonfire is extremely important, especially late game. Your opponent has 18 lore. They play a 2 lore character, and normally you wouldn't be able to do anything with that. They would just win the next turn because you can't challenge them because they're readied. Well, Dragonfire just kills them without having to worry about that. And that's what its purpose is to stop the win factor at the end. I found that if I play Dragonfire fairly early and kill off a character that's not super important, it's a waste. I've found that holding Dragonfire in hand as long as possible until you find that one threat that's dangerous is probably the best move with this. And then Sudden Chill. This card has a lot of haters. They're like, oh, it's trash, blah, blah, blah. Well, Sudden Chill, one, is a song, so you can sing it for a 2-cost or less. So if you've got, not with Flynn, because that'd be dumb, but if you have Gaston, for example, and you don't have a challenge target, and because then he can't attack, he can't use his reckless, he can sing a song of Sudden Chill and force your opponent to discard a card. Discarding one card in this game is pretty bad, like I was talking about with Flynn Rider as well. Unless they're playing a deck that has a lot of card draw, then it doesn't do you any good. So I've seen both situations. I've seen situations where I'm holding 2 Sudden Chills in hand and my opponent has 2 cards, and I will play both Sudden Chills, play one, force them to agonize over which card to discard, and then play the other one, and then they get angry and have to throw the other one down anyway. But it's just funny. And then the other thing is I have an opponent who has a huge card draw deck. They've got, you know, A Whole New World, or they've got the Dr. Facilier's song, and they're drawing a lot, and they've got 7 cards in hand already or whatever. I'm not going to waste Sudden Chill because they don't care if they're losing a card. I only play Sudden Chill if they have 2 cards or less. Otherwise, it goes to ink, or I hold it for another turn. The purpose of this deck is to quest as fast as possible. So you want to get the big questers on, the 2 or 3 quest guys out on the field as fast as possible, and then you start questing with them. And I've found sometimes you can win with completely ignoring your opponent. It doesn't matter what they're doing because you're going to get there first. You're just approaching the finish line faster, and if they can't stop you, you're going to win. Now, another purpose of this deck build itself is to have very few uninkable cards. See, Dragonfire is uninkable, and I originally only had Dragonfire. I finally broke down and put 1 Cusco in and have 1 other uninkable character. So we've got 5 cards in the whole deck that can't be inked. So pretty much anything you draw can be inked most of the time, which is very valuable because you want to get to 5 fast so you can play Mad Hatter. And then after that, eventually you can throw down to 6 to get on to your next level of play, which is John Silver, Mother Gothel, and Stitch. But getting to 6 isn't urgent. It's okay. Getting to 5 is important. I go to 5 as fast as possible, and I've found that as you play this, if you don't have any extra card draw, which this deck does not until you get Mad Hatter on the field, you will get to 5 ink and play 5 characters, and you'll be out of cards. And you'll have 0 cards in hand left. Now, this deck, downside is you are literally playing off the top deck at that point. You are drawing 1 card and playing it. And that sounds dangerous or scary to some people probably because then you don't have a lot of options. But one good thing about it is easy to play. You don't have any options. You will play the card that you're going to draw and it's going to the field or it's going to ink. Or maybe on rare occasion you'll hold it in hand and not play anything. Usually that doesn't hurt me for some reason. I've been either really lucky or it just because the cards that I'm drawing are these higher cost valuable cards that give me a benefit at the time. So this is my deck, but really the value in this game is the whole family can play it. I have my wife is able to play, which she's doesn't even have any interest in video games or card games. It's just not interesting to her, but she loves Disney. So she wants to play her favorite cards. And then my 11-year-old plays, and he's actually pretty good. He's beat me a few times. My 8-year-old plays, and he's won a few games, not against me yet, but he loves it, and he really understands the mechanics of the game. So if you've got kids who want to play a card game and Magic is too confusing or difficult or too competitive, then this is the game that brings our family together. Just try it out and see if you guys also find the value in this that we do. I'll have another video soon of my wife's deck. It has been untested, but she loves it. All right, I wanted to show a few practice hands with the deck that I won with at the locals that we had, the very first constructed tournament that we ran. I don't know exactly how great it's going to be going forward because I don't think through all of the pieces really, but it is fun. So you start with 7 cards, and you can always decide what stays in your hand and what goes back in the deck. for the initial hand draw. So what you can do with this hand, what I would do is I would let go of Dragonfire because it's not inkable. I would get rid of LeFou because he is not good very early game. He's a 2-cost, but you don't want to play him turn 2 because it's just a waste. Mad Hatter I would keep, Duke I would keep, or Sergeant Tibbs, they're the same card, just different colors. And I would keep Jasper. And I'd probably get rid of these two because even though I can just ink them and they're obvious inks, I have so many inkable cards in here that I might get something better. So I'm gonna go ahead and put back all 4 of these. So how this works, if you're new to the game, is you just put the 4 over, you draw 4 new cards, like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then these get shuffled back into your deck. They do not go on the bottom deck. They're not dead for the rest of the game. So I just kind of slice them in like this, and then I do a shuffle. Oops. So here's my hand that I'm going to start with after I've done my mulligan, partial mulligan. And so if I was playing this, I've got this in my hand, I would ink one of the 1 costs. So let's say Sergeant Tibbs goes to ink. This is my hand now. I'm going to play the Duke. Now I got 5 in hand. In my turn, goes to my opponent. They do something, pay 1 for the Duke. Comes back to my turn, I draw. I've got Hans, I bring ready my ink. I've got the Duke on the field, I need to put another ink down. I have 2 Cheshire Cats, there's no need for 2 of them, so I'm gonna dump 1 of them here into ink. I don't actually have a 2-cost in hand right now, which is rare, but that does happen occasionally. So I'll pass my turn and do nothing, or probably quest with Duke for 1. So let's say I'm gonna get 1 ink. Okay, my opponent does something, let's say he kills the Duke. Okay, off he goes. Now it comes back to my turn, I'm gonna draw. All right, I've got the Sergeant here. Sergeant Tibbs is probably gonna go to ink at this point. I'm gonna pay 3. So this depends on how my opponent is playing. If he has characters that can quest for 2 or more, I'm gonna play Jasper because I want to stop them from questing. If they don't have characters that I'm worried about, I wanna play Cheshire Cat because he is gonna give me 2 lore each turn and force them to lose a character when he dies, which sometimes can really matter, and they won't attack because they don't want to lose their character. Other times they're like, oh yeah, that's fine. I'll hit him with a guy with 2 attack and just take him to 2 and then finish him off with something wimpy like a Fire the Cannons, which is fine, but it still wasted 2 effects to get rid of him, usually. So let's say I play Cheshire Cat. All right, so next turn, I'll draw. Now I've got Flynn Rider, my famous 2-cost here. So here is a tough decision for me because now I'm looking at 3 lore or 3 ink and I can get up to 4. I don't have 2 costs that I can play at the same time, so I'm gonna have to play a 4 or a 3, and I'm probably gonna play Hans. But what do I ink? Is it gonna be Flynn Rider, Jasper, or Mad Hatter? Definitely not Mad Hatter because he's amazing. But also I've got Kuzco in hand, so I have 2 5 costs. I can't play them both in the same turn. So I'm almost wondering if I get rid of Mad Hatter, because I know I have 3 more in the deck. I've got 4 Mad Hatters, so that won't really hurt me. I'll probably see another one. If I get rid of Jasper, I also have 4 Jaspers, so I mean, it's very likely I'll see one of him as well. You know, I think I'm gonna do Jasper. He's gonna go, pay the 4, bring out Hans. Cheshire Cat quest for 2. So see, this isn't like a super rush deck by any stretch, but the point is to have as many characters on the field with 2 or more lore counters on them when they quest as possible, because getting rid of more than 2 in a turn is really hard to do for most decks. So let's go to the next one here. Drawing in, I've got another, there's another Jasper. I just got rid of a Jasper, drew a new one. Here I would probably get rid of Flynn Rider and bring out Kuzco. I prefer to play the non-inkable cards as soon as possible because I don't like them sitting in my hand and I can't use them for anything else, so that it leaves me with other options available for Mad Hatter. I'll probably play him next turn, but let's see what I get. Let's say 1 more turn passes. Hey, it's another Mad Hatter. Well, that's an easy choice. You just ink a Mad Hatter. Now I've got 6. I probably won't need more than 6 ink the whole game. So I sit on this at this point. So there's one practice hand. Let me give you one more real quick. All right, so I'm going to do another playthrough here. 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's say this is my starting hand. Oh my goodness. 3 Mauis. I only run 3 Mauis. Okay, so this is why you have mulligans. These are all high cost cards, and this is a terrible initial draw. I am going to get rid of both Pongos, 2 Mauis. I'll keep 1 just in case things get really terrible, and LeFou. And I'll probably get rid of Dragonfire too, because I don't like having an uninkable card in my initial draw. I'm going to get rid of 6, which I've never done before. So I'm going to draw 6 new cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. I would shuffle these back in, but for time's sake, I'm just going to throw them on the bottom for now. Okay, so here's my initial hand after the mulligan. Let's say I go second this time, and I'm going to draw, because the first person to play does not draw. The second player gets to draw a card. So I'm going to draw a card. Let's say I'm playing second. So once again, I have 2 1-cost characters. One of them should go to ink, so I'm going to put the Duke in ink, and I'm going to bring out Sergeant Tibbs by paying that 1 ink. Go to turn 2, ready my ink, draw a card. So now I'm looking to see if I have a 2-cost in my hand, and I do. I have Sudden Chill and Flynn Rider. So there's a choice here. I got Flynn Rider, who can be played and then get my 2 lore next turn, which is really good. Or I have Sudden Chill. Generally, actually almost always, I would not play Sudden Chill on turn 2 because my opponent is going to still have at least 5 cards in hand. So they probably have a card they were planning on inking next turn anyway, so they'll just dump it. It's fine, that won't hurt them. So I'm gonna hold Sudden Chill and play Flynn Rider, but I need to figure out what I'm gonna throw to ink as well. And I think in this case, I would probably be inking Maui because I have other 5-costs that I want to play, and I don't want to lose Tinkerbell yet until I see if they have an evasive deck that I need to deal with. So I'm going to get rid of Maui. I'm going to pay that 2 to bring out Flynn Rider. Let's go to the next turn. I would also quest here. He would get 1, and then we'll go to the next turn. We're going to draw a card. All right, so now we've got Stitch. I've got 2 ink. I can do 1 more this turn if it looks like they have a draw power deck. So if they're running purple or amber, I would probably be hesitant to even bother with Sudden Chill. If they have draw power, it doesn't hurt them very much. If they don't have draw power, like my deck, I would want to hold Sudden Chill and make sure I can play that. So let's say they do have draw power. I'm going to just dump Sudden Chill here. You're like, that's fine. I have 3 more anyway. I mean, there's 4 in here, so it's not going to hurt me that bad. I'm going to pay 3 for that Cheshire Cat because Cheshire Cat is awesome. And then I would quest here for 3. Now, you're thinking probably if you've seen other decks like, oh, this isn't all that fast. And it's not. But usually I will get to 5 or 6 ink, and that will be the turning point in the game where I really start exploding. I'm getting 7 ink in a turn, 8 ink in a, or not ink, lore in a turn. And when you're questing for 8 in 1 turn, it's over very quickly. So let's go 1 more turn here. This is in my hand. Hey, look, another Sudden Chill. Like I said, there's more. There's more. So if I inked 1 Sudden Chill, I'm probably assuming that he's gonna have a lot of draw, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get rid of that Sudden Chill. I've got 4, and we're gonna go ahead and play Tinkerbell. Now Tinkerbell has the ability to be amazing, although in practice I haven't found her super helpful, but her stats are exactly the same as Pongo, except she has the added effect of giving evasive to another character this turn. So you can give, in this case, there's really nobody that would benefit from this except for maybe Sergeant Tibbs. Give him evasive and kill like Pascal or something like that. This effect can be useful later in the game. On turn 4, probably not super useful. But she has evasive as well. So there's that card. Then assuming no one, let's say Sergeant Tibbs has died at some point. So let's say we're going to quest here for 4. So I'm questing with just 2 cards for 4 lore, and I'm already at 8, and I'm on turn 4. So it's not super fast. It's more of a mid-range build. We're going to draw and ready everything for the next turn. I've got Flynn Rider on the field. Later in the game, Flynn Rider is usually a little less useful, so I'll usually get rid of him if I see him later in the game into ink. At 5, I'm going to be playing Mad Hatter for sure. He is amazing and the only ability I have to really do card draw if he gets challenged. And now if you see in my hand, I've got 2 6 costs, one that quests for 2, one that quests for 3. This is like my favorite place to be, where I'm just waiting for the next turn so I can slam down another big card. I'm waiting, or I'm holding them in hand and waiting for the next turn so I can just keep going and applying that pressure. Look at 2, 2, 2, 3, and then I got 2 and a 3 in hand. Like, if they can't do some kind of board wipe or kill off a lot of them at once, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a win, right? If this is the board state. So there's another run through for you. This is kind of how this deck runs. More of a mid-range build, not really super rush, definitely not control, but it's fun. Mid-range is probably my favorite style.